All righty, looks like we are live as people start jumping on. I realize that when I look at the screen, I'm never looking at the camera, so I have to.
The camera either. Hi, everybody.
So we are on, and it looks like, let's see, are people jumping on here? Hold on, it always takes a minute for this thing to connect. There we go. Good. There we're like it. It's weird. It does something strange. Anyway, sorry. I'm jabbering to myself as we're like partially live. And I have this is Dr. Jason Dean, Revolution Network, and I have Dr. Tina St. John. How are you?
Back.
You're back. You're back. You're back. One, because you're adored on the show, and two, if we didn't have you back on, they would have revolted at some point.
Right. That's right. Everybody keeps asking me, when are you going back? I'm like, I don't know. Whenever he asked me. It's first show.
How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Other than our foot of snow that we got today.
Ooh, a foot of snow?
A foot of snow in Cleveland. Yeah, it was not fun.
Really?
Yeah, my snowblower didn't work. John had to go shovel the driveway tonight. That was not fun.
Well, we're in Florida, and it did get down to, I think it's in the 30s tonight, actually. We got a cold snap.
Yes, that's cold for you guys. That's really,
Oh,
really
yeah, no, tonight's, even I walked outside, and I'm like, oh, it's a little chilly tonight. We got a cold one. The dog's coming in.
We got to do something. Yeah, power went out all over the place here. It was a zoo today. It was not pretty.
And on top of that, I will tell you, because this will transition us nicely into what we're talking about, is I have not done any of the research on my own, but I did get a text last night that a lot of the systems, like the Verizons of the world, the data systems, the cellular systems, the electrical systems behind the scenes, they're struggling behind the scenes. When I do my speed tests on the network before I go on, because people were complaining that things were blurry, and I'm like, but it's not on my end. But when I go on, it actually says the gaming systems. It says, let's see, Amazon Web Services, player backgrounds, or like live streaming video games, and apparently Grinder, which I don't even know what that is, and it sounds horrible. It sounds like a very bad social media network. They are all having difficulties with their online services because of the networks that are struggling. So could the planets be aligned?
There is a reason why. I think a lot of it has to do with a lot more people are looking for more information. They want to know what the hell's going on. And before, a long, long time ago, when we had to look things up in encyclopedias or go to the library and look things up in books, and I mean, people still read books, but most people go on the internet. And I think a lot of it has to do with people are searching for answers. They're on the internet more. And, they're on these gaming systems. They're meeting more people. It just has to do with the expansion of all that. And, we'll get into a little bit about what's happening right now in the planets, but Mercury has a lot to do with it. Mercury rules anything that has to do with technology, not technology as far as how it goes, but anything has to do with communication. And that's a big thing. And that just entered the sign of Sagittarius, which is expansion. And so people are looking, and it rules how you think. And so people are wondering, well, how the hell do I get this information? What am I supposed to think about what's happening in the world? So people are looking online, and they're looking, on these specific sites. And I think these networks are struggling with what's happening, especially because of the information age, but also the Great Awakening. People are they're wondering what the hell's happening.
Yeah,
why I'm on.
For the record, Grinder is the gay hookup site.
I laughed.
This is how much I have before we jump into tonight. And don't worry, I'm gonna let her talk all night long, so don't yell at me. But I remember when I was in my 20s, I said to myself, you know what? When I get older, I'm going to know all the music that's popular, all the movies, because I want to make sure my kids know what's going on, and I know what's going on with my kids. Guess what?
No.
I don't know what the hell is going on out there.
40s now. Come on, we're over the hill.
I have no idea what's popular. I had no idea Grindr was a gay social media network.
That just cracks me up. I can't believe you said that. That's why I laughed, because I didn't even want to tell you. I just wanted you to find on your own.
So, where do you start tonight? Because the last time you were on, you and I warned people from a standpoint of there's something coming from a political standpoint. You warned some people it was coming from we can call it astrology, whatever. The planets are doing certain things. There's no getting around it. What is happening?
Well, there's a lot happening, and there's been a lot going on since the election. Well, the whole year it's been going on. The whole year has been a piece of crap as far as what I'm concerned. But a lot of people are like, let's get 2020 over with. Well, there has been so much coming out. If anybody follows us on Twitter, or anybody is following some of the bigger names, they're seeing a lot of these things unfold in front of our eyes as far as about the election. They're like, when is this year going to be over? When is this election going to be over? Well, I've been doing a lot of different readings with a lot of people since the last show. A lot of people have been asking me, hey, can you give me a little bit more information about my life, about how things are unfolding in the planets right now? And so when I look at things in astrology, I'm not necessarily looking at, all right, well, these planets are specifically telling us what to do. They're guides, but they're not dictating specifically what's happening. So when I look at them, I'm interpreting them as far as from an applied viewpoint. So these planets have different aspects to them as far as a good and a bad side. So I don't always look at them as good and bad, because there's lessons to learn from all of them. But when you're looking at certain things that are going on in the sky, they're all part of our universe. They don't dictate specifically who we are or what we're going to be doing, but it tells us a lot. It's a reflection. So as above, so below. So I look to a lot of what's happening in the planets, because they represent a lot of what's happening here. And so they'll guide me as to say, okay, well, let's look at this. Let's see what could potentially happen. And I look at a lot of patterns, and that's how I get a lot of the dates that I come up with. Because, a lot of people like politicians and a lot of these bad people in the deep state, a lot of your viewers know about this, but they all know about astrology. It's been around for hundreds of thousands of years. I can look at planets thousands and thousands of years ahead of us from 2222. I can go that far in advance. They have this thing called ephemeris, and so they have all the planets laid out as to however long you want to look at them, however far back you want to look at them. So when you're looking at certain things, with all these planets, they all know, these politicians in the deep state, they know that there's good and bad sides to these things, and they're part of our universe. So we have to incorporate them. And as we keep ascending and we keep learning more information and expanding our horizons, we have to kind of accept this stuff as being part of our universe. And I'm not saying that we have to worship them, but we definitely have to pay attention to them, because they are showing us specific things that are coming up or that could potentially happen. And so that's kind of how I got some of the things when I came on the night of the election, or the couple days before and the night of the election. So when I look at people's charts, or when I get information about people, it really tells me a lot of the characteristics about what's going on in their lives. And a lot of people that have been listening to your show, or that have asked for me to come on, I've done readings for, I've talked with them about their lives, and I nail certain things about them, but it's because of these planets. They specifically have aspects to them that I can read about and interpret them for people, and to help them and to help guide them. So it's really a guide. So there's tons of stuff going on right now. We all knew that most astrologers have been looking at 2020 for a very, very long time. It's something that when you look at it, we knew it was going to be a heavy year, but we thought it was all going to be about the election. We had no idea that the pandemic was going to be thrown in there. We just know by looking at all that, how it's going to affect society and the institutions, and just people in their lower minds, and how they're thinking and emotionally, how it might affect them. And so when we were looking at 2020, we were obviously looking at the election, and then all of a sudden this hit. But you can see this pandemic, which I know a lot about it. Nobody has to explain in the comments. I know all about it.
She is a physician. She is in natural health. She understands before everyone freaks out.
Right.
She knows it was a pandemic. She knows it's BS. So
I don't have to go into all that. You know, I mean, hopefully everybody understands that if I'm on your show, I've been paying attention and I know what the hell I'm talking about. It's
right.
what I'm in alignment with what you've been talking about. We've been sharing a lot of things. So with 2020, we've had these 3 planets that have kind of helped shape this whole year. And they haven't, and I said this on election night or a couple nights before, they have been really heavy planets in Saturn and Pluto. And I'll explain a little bit about those 2 planets, but also Jupiter been in there. So they've all been assigned to Capricorn. It's a very heavy influence on this year. And so when I started looking at the month of December, I think people, I don't know if anybody feels the same way that I feel, but we're kind of coming to this conclusion. We're coming to this climax. I think everybody can kind of feel that we're either ending, we're getting ready to end this huge cycle. And people are like, what is this big cycle that has been going on? So there's multiple cycles going on at the same time, but they're all ending right around the same time. So this is going to be a very monumental month for all of us. But the whole year, it's just been one thing after another. People have really they've struggled with a lot of these restrictions because Saturn has to do with restrictions, and it's also, you know, Satan, you know, I mean, Luciferian. There's a lot of negative influence, but it's also a good planet as far as learning your lesson, and it rules karma. So we've been going through a lot of karmic things. If people believe in karma, I'm a big believer in that. We've had to work through a lot of issues that we've all chosen to be a part of on our planet right now. So we are a huge part of all of this. So everybody here is all witnessing history go on. And this is a revolutionary time. I can't describe how important this year is from a history standpoint, and also moving forward and what we have to look forward to. It's really, really, really an exciting time. So Saturn and Pluto, Jupiter have all been together since January. So what's going on now is that Pluto is going to remain in Capricorn for the next 4 years. And so what that means is Capricorn, Pluto rules all government institutions. And so mainly government and some deep, dark, heavy, hidden things that people don't want to look at. And so it's in this sign of Capricorn where it's all about restrictions and it's transforming the way that our structure is in society. So it's going to be in there for another 4 years. So it entered in back in 2008, but it's starting to really kind of come to a head right now, because I talked a little bit about this on election night. It's circled all the way around the sun, and it takes 240 years for Pluto to go all the way around the sun. So it's coming back to where it was natally when the United States was born, which is a huge deal. We started feeling the effects of that back in 2017. So 2017 on, I mean, Trump has been in there since 2017. So I'm a huge believer that he's started this. He's been a big part of this revolution, and he's going to continue this on. So a lot of people have questions. Well, what do you think about Trump? Do you think Trump's going to win? Well, all I can say to you right now is the election is not over.
I know. I was told today in the office by another patriot patient, and he has friends who are also big Trump supporters, and they are panicking. Like, they're literally panicking that, oh my God, the president's not going to stay in office and blah, blah, blah. And he's trying to calm them down. He's like, what do you think? I'm like, everything, like, there's no way he's not, like, I'm sorry. I will actually be totally stunned if Biden or anybody else ends up in the White House, because I am 99.9% that Trump takes the office back or continues in office.
There's so many balls in the air. I was just listening to Praying Medic. I told you right before we went on, listening to Praying Medic on Twitter. And he was going through the electoral process and about this election. And I said this way back on the election night. This is not going to be decided on election night. We knew this going into this. A lot of these astrologers who had been looking at this election, we knew that this was not going to be decided on that night. And lo and behold, boom, in the middle of when they're counting all the votes, it just stops. And everybody's going, what the hell's going on? You're on till 3 in the morning, everybody's waiting. And everybody was like, what's happening? Well, and part of the reason of that, and I kind of went over this on election night, was Mercury had been in retrograde. And this happens 3 to 4 times a year. And this is a very important planet because Mercury rules our lower thoughts and our lower minds and how we think. And it also rules communication. And so when this had started happening way back at the end of September, it started kind of going into the shadow period. And retrograde doesn't mean the planet's going backwards. It just means it's slowing down a little bit. And it stopped fully on October 14th. That's when all the electoral votes started, not electoral votes, but all of people started sending in their mail-in ballots. So for the 3 weeks leading up to the election, this planet was stationary. And it was causing all kinds of problems in communication. So there was so much confusion. And when on the day of the election, it went direct, which when planets go direct, I pay attention because these are pivotal days with these specific planets. And when Mercury goes retrograde and direct, or when it goes stationary and direct, I always look at those because it's the closest planet to the sun. So it rules our thoughts and the way we communicate. So when that happened, it was in the sign of Libra, which rules justices and any kind of with the election process, like anything that has to do with law. So you're seeing all this stuff unfold. So when that went direct on that day, the last time this happened was in the year 2000. And so Bush and Gore, it took 5 weeks for the election to be resolved. Here we are 3-4 weeks later. We still haven't resolved this yet. And there's a reason for that, because this planet, it finally went out of its retrograde. It stopped, it started back up on election night, but we had to feel the effects of that for a little bit until it finally got back up to speed the end of November. Well, here we go, here's November. So everybody's like, okay, finally, we have a little bit of some time. And I kind of talked a little bit about this on the 13th and 14th of November. We had a little bit of a change. There were some things that came out. And so I said, just look for that day. They might call the election. Well, Joe Biden was called right around that time. And so I had a feeling that something was going to happen. I thought Trump was going to be called, but lo and behold, here's Biden. Well, this is all part of the plan. We all have to trust what's happening because this isn't done yet. And so it took 5 weeks back in 2000 for this to be resolved. And the reason why is because we have electoral process that next week, and Praying Medic was going over all of this, next week on December 8th on Tuesday, we won't know anything until the legislator in each state gets to pick the electors. The popular vote yes, the popular vote has usually that plays into how these people pick their votes. But with this Mercury retrograde thing, it was so confusing, and it was just, it threw everything out the window as far as everything. There was so much miscommunication with this. And so it's kind of unraveling. And so what you're seeing is all these people coming forth and saying, okay, there was fraud. There was all these things that happened. And I witnessed this, and it was wrong, and that they weren't counted correctly. There's delays. So when Mercury's retrograde, there's delays with a lot of things. So that's why I kind of said, okay, well, this thing's going to be delayed. This isn't going to be resolved. So next week, we're looking at December 8th because the electors are going to be picked by each state. Now, they don't have to necessarily be picked by who won the popular vote. So it's going to be crucial in the next couple of weeks, and I'll kind of go over what this eclipse had to do with last night, because it's kind of monumental. And there's another one coming up on the 14th, which is another big thing. And then we have the whole thing on the 21st. So I'll go through each one of those because they're all important that play into this election. But we have some time for this to unravel.
And you mean it's not going to all just calm down and settle down over the next few weeks?
Can this just get over with already? No, this is not. we won't see a really, really huge shift. I mean, we're going to see shifts happen along this whole time, but a major, major relief and a major movement forward until really I'd see like April. And I know people are like, oh my God, is this ever going to end? I'm not talking about the election. I'm just talking about just the overall tenseness that we've been feeling for the last year.
You have 5 more months, folks. You have 5 more months.
No, I'm sorry, 4 more months. Just because I've looked ahead a little bit, and I've just kind of looked to see how this is all gonna, what these planets are all gonna be doing, and it's gonna be intense until even through inauguration day. The intensity of what's happening now, and I'll go over some of these things. They haven't happened in a long time. So I look at patterns. I look at patterns with things because patterns will show us what happened and before, and so we kind of have an idea as to what to look forward to. But with last night, I know a lot of people have been talking about this eclipse, and I kind of posted on Facebook about this lunar eclipse last night. And the significance about this is that it happened in the sign of Gemini. I'm a Gemini. I felt huge effects from this. It happened in the sign of Gemini, but across from that's the zodiac sign is Gemini. But across the heavens is the zodiac sign of Sagittarius. So you have Gemini, you have Sagittarius. So when you have a lunar eclipse, you have the sun and it coincides with a full moon. But when you have a full moon, the sun and moon are opposite each other in the heavens. So the moon was in Gemini and the sun was in Sagittarius. So whenever a full moon happens, I'm like, okay, well, what zodiac sign are we in right now? If I know what zodiac sign I'm in, I can know where the sun is, and then I can see, oh, well, the moon is across the heavens and the other zodiac sign that is across. So Gemini, so the moon was in Gemini and the sun was in Sagittarius. Well, this is a big deal because Trump is also a Gemini. And so Rudy Giuliani is a Gemini, and I think Ted Cruz is a Gemini also. So all these people have a lot to do with, I mean, not necessarily Ted Cruz, but Rudy Giuliani and Trump. And so when there's a lunar eclipse over this, I wrote down some notes. There were some other things that happened at the same time. So in the heavens, when you have the sun and moon, a lot of times with a full moon or an eclipse, you have these two things called this north and south node. And what these nodes are representative of are karmic history and karmic destiny. So at the same time, all this stuff was going on. So during this lunar eclipse, we had these two nodes and they were squaring or having this harsh, tense interaction with this planet Neptune. So I'm going to break this all down so everybody has a little bit of, because it's like, I can tell you all this stuff, but what the hell does that mean?
and let me add this before you dive into this part. And this is really simple. Last time we talked, I went and did some research, and I just kind of did very general research on astrology. And I found pages that were literally just quotes from some of the greatest minds in the world, the Einsteins of the world, the Mark Twains of the world, the Reagans of the world, like these Aristotle, like we're talking the biggest names all of us ever learned about, from philosophy to science to politicians. And the most common thing they all said was they were all involved with reading astrology. And then the business people said millionaires don't follow astrology. The billionaires follow astrology. So for anybody out there who hasn't looked at astrology, thinks it's crazy, thinks it's woo-woo spiritual, all the greatest minds that we've ever heard of all followed the planets in astrology. So I found that really fascinating because it helped me get more understanding so I can dive more down this road.
Well, it is. It's fascinating because these people know the people that are on your that are following you and are listening to the show now that I've done readings for. They will understand what I'm talking about whenever I say this. Is that when you look at someone's natal chart or you look at when they're born, that's so specific to that person, and so they know when they look at someone who they can specifically who they can mold into these positions and what kind of characteristics they have if they're going to be very, very powerful people. And like, so for instance, I looked at the guy who was in charge of the global reset, the Strauss guy, I think is his name.
Yeah.
What is his name? Is Klaus?
Klaus Schwab. I call him. I call him.
I
I
looked
call
at
him
his
Dick. I
chart.
call.
Yeah, yeah, and he's an evil person. I mean,
He's
an
very.
extremely evil
He
person.
wears Star Trek pajamas and he's evil.
He's an extremely evil. When I looked at his chart, I was like, "Holy crap, this guy!" And they knew this when they picked this guy, that he was born in during the Holocaust, and so during this period, I mean, they had some really harsh things going on, but this guy was specifically evil. They knew this guy could take over. He was all about power and control. So they handpicked this guy to be the head of all of this. And so they know when these people are born, they know and they go after these people. So for instance, Trump, they knew what he was capable. They knew what he came in with. He was born during a lunar eclipse. And when you're born during a lunar eclipse, it's like you have certain powers and certain things about you that not other people have. A lot of world leaders have been born under eclipses. So that was a huge thing for me when I even just looking at his. So these people know who they're picking. They know what kind of characteristics they have. They know who can make money. And they will help mold them because in their natal chart, it's so specific, and each one of these planets are in specific positions, and they each represent certain things. And then you can bring out the negative and the positive parts of these planets. So if they're having harsh aspects of other planets and they're dancing around, I always describe as two actors, like in a love scene or in a fight scene. If they're in a harsh aspect to one another, then they're going to be fighters. I mean, they're going to be people that are going to bring and usher in bad energy. We don't want those people. And so, but Trump had he has such a powerful layout in his natal chart. When he was born, they knew what he had. He came in with such a knowingness and a karmic history to him as a leader and an authoritative person. And they knew, as him being a Gemini, that he could mold and he could help he could shape things, and he was going to be a very, very strong communicator. That's one of the most important things about him. People don't like a lot of things he says or the way he says them, and you can see it in this chart because he just says crap just out of thin air, and he's very abrasive when he says certain things, and that you can see that in his chart. But they knew that he would be able to get this message across to the people. That was the most important thing, and so he has a lot of karma with all of this, and there's no doubt in my mind that he's here to help usher in this whole revolution. And so that's why I keep saying trust the plan, because this plan it hasn't been fully finished yet. And with eclipses, a lot of times what you'll see with eclipses is it finishes a cycle. It's the end of something. So last night, not necessarily the end of something, but there's a solar eclipse coming up, and that's going to be, we might see some ending to some things. So, but I don't know how everything is going to go, but I can tell you that there's some things that are going to be happening in the planets in the next. But this lunar eclipse specifically was so important because with that sun being in Sagittarius, and it was opposing the moon in Gemini. With that sun in Sagittarius, we're unlearning a lot of what we thought. It's revealing what we're unlearning, basically. So because Sagittarius is a sign of higher knowledge and the quest for truth. And so people want to know this. And so, but sometimes they're forced to detach from their emotional components in a lunar eclipse. So it just changes your perception of reality. That's basically what this lunar eclipse did. And being in the sign of Gemini, Geminis are all about change. They're like the chameleon of the planets. So they're all about change. So this is a massive shift and a massive change as to the direction that we're going. And so what you're seeing is all this information is coming out, and Gemini is all about information. So I'm seeing on the internet right now, even like with Project Veritas tonight with James O'Keefe, him dropping information, because Mercury rules Gemini, but Mercury and Gemini, they rule media and communication. And with this lunar eclipse, it's shining light on all of this, and it's forcing the media, it's forcing this all out in the open. That's what lunar eclipses do. They force and things, they illuminate things. And so people are going to see more information come out in the next month, because this has kind of set the tone for the month. All this stuff start dropping with information. And it's so crucial that people really, really pay attention and speak very clearly when they're talking about what they're learning. Because when this happened, it had a harsh or kind of a fight scene with the planet of Neptune, and Neptune is very chaotic, and it's not, it's nebulous and it's confusing. And so when people are speaking, because Gemini's there, when people are speaking, they're forced to speak very, very clearly. So you might have a little pushback from people, but you're seeing the confusion, the confusion come out. It's being uncovered by people right now. And so I think the media is we're gonna start seeing more of this media in the next month kind of fall, just because of this lunar eclipse. But the way that it's affecting Trump is it's kind of off the chart. And it's really, really interesting, because this affects Trump in the way that this happened. There's another solar eclipse happening, but this I have to explain it in a way because I can't show you on a chart. But this was over his moon, this is over his Saturn, this was over his sun, this was over his north node. So all these things are affecting how he's moving forward, and it's bringing in and ushering in this whole new structure. So we're going to start seeing these structure and these things put into place over the next month.
So probably a new voting structure and a new economic structure.
Absolutely. That's part of it. That's going to be with the Saturn and Jupiter and December 21st, which I'll get into last, because that's going to be another interesting thing that's going to be occurring. But on December 14th, before we get there, so this lunar eclipse is kind of helping to set the tone for the next month, because it was a full moon. And when full moons happen, they kind of set the tone. With December 14th, there's a solar eclipse happening down in southern South America and over Antarctica, which is very interesting, because I feel like it's going to illuminate some stuff. We might get some more information about Antarctica.
Some Antarctica information. That'd be fantastic.
Yeah, but it really, really represents a significant change in direction. So December 14th, not only this, there's a lot of things happening on December 14th. This is a crucial time. December 8th is next week, when the electors are picked by the states. If there's not underlying, what do I want to say, litigation happening, is what Praying Medic was going over in his live. But the next week on the 14th, that's the Monday, that's when all the electors get together, and they're supposed to cast their vote as to who they're voting for on the 14th. Well, the 14th is going to be very, very interesting, because this is a solar eclipse that's happening on the same day.
That should go smoothly.
Yeah, it's representing a huge, huge, huge change in direction. So I think people are thinking, oh, they're all going to be voting for Biden. No, I don't think that's going to be. I don't even know if they're even going to put all the votes in for Trump, but these people are going to be picked from next week from these legislators in these states. And I think that's going to be, when they cast their vote on the 14th, it's going to be something that they're not expecting. I'm just like, oh crap, that's interesting. And then also in the same time, there's another aspect that's going on. I feel like there's going to be a little bit more this is the start of some tension that's going to be growing till the end of the year. I kind of went over this with you just briefly, but this Mars is going to be squaring these three planets again. These three planets have to get out of the way, but two of them are going to be out of the way on the December 21st. But Mars is this aggressive energy, and it's assertive. It's the planet of anger. And so I think that when this is forming like kind of this fight scene with these three planets, as Pluto, Jupiter, and Saturn. And so it's like a fight for all these institutions. And it's a major, major transformation. As you talked about before, I told you a week ago, I said, we're like on a glacier here. People, you guys, people have to wake up, because with Pluto, if you don't get the hell out of the way, Like it's going to move regardless. It's transforming the landscape. It's transforming everything we know about government, and it's going to be in there for the next 4 years. And so we're on a glacier, and so you better hop on top of the glacier, because if not, you're going to get run over. And it's moving very, very slowly. It's transforming the landscape underneath it. No matter what's happening, it's going on. And Trump's kind of ahead of all of this, and he's known about this for a while. Saturn and Jupiter will move on out of Capricorn and go into Aquarius. And so, but with this solar eclipse happening on the 14th, one of the biggest things is it's going to affect Trump. And it's almost like, the way I just describe it, happens across from Trump's sun, okay, in the heavens. So when you have a solar eclipse, the sun and moon are together in the sky, okay? And so let's just say Trump's sun is up here. So the sun and moon are here. They're opposite the sky of his sun. So whenever I see these opposite somebody's sun, it's like this eclipse is we're looking at somebody else's sun, so it's his opponent. It's opposite. It's opponent. So this eclipse is happening over his opponent. So it's almost like it's eclipsing his opponent or taking his opponent out. Does that make sense?
That's like that sounds so like perfectly scripted.
It's amazing. It's when I look at that, I'm like, holy crap! I'm like, this can mean that he's literally taking out his opponent when this solar eclipse happening, because it's opposite of his sun. So this is a pretty big deal. I mean, this is something that people might not have looked at, and that could be the significant change in direction that might happen on that day. So I don't know what's going to happen, but I just definitely know the solar eclipse.
Now, this is the stuff, because I don't know this stuff, so I'm listening to you, and then I read when I can, and you send me over links to read. But like, we're talking about this, right? Like you and I on a Tuesday night chatting about this on camera as if like this is what's going to happen. This is going to occur. We don't know exactly the details of the day, how it will happen, but this was occurring. They have to know, like, does the president know this is happening, or do you know what I mean? Like, do they understand how this works, or are they just kind of part of the game and they don't realize, like, we can't be the only ones that know this is going down?
Definitely somebody in his cabinet, someone around him that knows about this. There has to be, because if you guys look online, you guys can follow, or you guys can look up President Reagan. And I told you this before, that Nancy Reagan had her own astrologer in the White House, because after they tried to assassinate him, she pulled this woman in, and she says, hey, can you help me predict kind of what's going to be happening, and what's the best time to have his press conferences? When's the best time for him to travel? I mean, I don't want him to be harmed anymore. Can you help me with this? So she was in the White House for the next 4 years. And so when Daddy Bush got into office, he kicked her out. But I have a feeling that he was like, what the hell is she doing? Was there something that was going on with him? He had to have known that she was onto something, because he was underneath Reagan. He was his vice president. I know he had to have known that this astrology was taking place, and that she was in the White House and something was going on, because he kicked her out. But I think he still took this information and was like, well, how can we use this for our benefit? Is there something we can do with this? And with this Saturn and Jupiter coming up, this is going to be such an important event. I know Red Collie's talked about this. You've talked about this. I've shared links online about this. It's a pretty important date. The reason why I'm going to go into this is because Saturn and Jupiter are kind of opposing signs. They don't really get along too well.
I'm laughing because John Reese, who is overtly Christian on Twitter,
yes,
blew my mind the other day, and I'll try to look for the tweet while you're talking about this, but the John Reese Twitter account, Trumper Waving, I think is what his handle is.
What it is, yeah.
He put, out of nowhere 2 days ago, Saturn is Satan, Jupiter is Jesus. And I went, what am I supposed to do with that, John?
Right. What? There's going to be two opposing forces. Like, what the hell's happening? Well, these two planets get together every 20 years. Okay, so what Saturn represents is I know they want to pull the negative sides of this, but it has a good side to it. It's a bringer of karma. It helps people work through some of their problems. It's a bringer of wisdom. It rules maturity, old age, and it's the bringer of it's the mature and responsible planet in people's in their charts. So when I look at that, I'm like, oh, okay, well, what's happening with this? Because it's a crucial planet, and it will tell me what kind of work they're here to. It's the workhorse of the zodiac. So it rules Capricorn, but it's the workhorse. So I look to see what this is. So it's a good. It can have its positive things. It adds structure to things, and it adds discipline to certain aspects of people. So I look at it in a positive way that way. But then the other side of this is this restriction and this loss and this loneliness, and it's not a fun planet when you're going through it, but it's just this lonely. It's just not fun. It's not a lighthearted planet, and so when I started looking into this, and I went on David Icke, and I had seen that he had posted this thing about Saturn, and I started reading all the stuff and knowing all about all these black cubes and how all this was so worshipped around the world, and all these symbols and all these things everywhere. And I'm going, God, Saturn is that bad? I'm like, Jesus. I mean, I've been looking at this, but I didn't realize it was this bad. Well, it was because they used to see Saturn as being their sun. They took that was their sun. That was the sun before the sun was discovered as being, the center of the universe. So that's what they thought. So
you almost kind of feel bad for them, because you're like, oh, they got tricked too.
Yeah, they did. And so it has its bad sides to it. So yes, you can deem it a dark Luciferian planet because it has all those characteristics, and it's kind of a dark sign. So then you're dealing with this, and this has been with Pluto all this whole year. And Pluto is this other heavy sign, which rules transformation and death. And so it's not always this fun. It's like, the greatest transformation in life is death. So people are like, well, Jesus, people have been dying, people have been struggling with things. And so you've had this loss. People have lost their homes. They've lost their livelihoods, their structures, their homes, their income. All that stuff has been challenged this year. It rules institutions, and so or government, and so the government's been transformed. So this is what we read last. When was this? Last two days ago?
This was November 29th. Yeah, 2 days ago.
It's saying that there's a great conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn on December 21st. Well, this happens every 20 years. That Jupiter and Saturn get together in the heavens every 20 years. The last time it was together was in May of 2000, right before, 5, 6, 7 months before the election happened in 2000. So this happened way back when. The thing is what's so different about this is that there's two things that are so different about these two planets getting together. I haven't even gone into Jupiter yet, but Saturn is, when Saturn and Jupiter got together, when they get together on December 21st, the last two, it's ending a cycle, okay? And the reason why it's ending a cycle is because Saturn and Jupiter have gotten together every 20 years for the last 200 years. So over the last 200 years, they've gotten together in different zodiac signs, but all the zodiac signs have been in the signs that rule the earth. They're called earth signs. So they've all been in these earth signs. The difference between that and this one is that now Saturn and Jupiter will be together in an air sign. This is the first time it's been in an air sign or in a different sign of it's going to be happening in Aquarius. And the other air signs are Gemini, and I'm trying to think of the other one offhand, but Gemini is the other one. And so I don't know if I'm trying to think of Libra is, but anyways, but Aquarius and Gemini are two other, are air signs. And so when you change signs like that, it represents a whole other thing. So we are ending a cycle of 200 years of these planets getting together in a different sign or in different in Earth signs. So I think the last time in 2000, Taurus is the other Earth sign, and in 2000 it was conjunct in the sign of Taurus. So so this is going to change a lot of things. So it's ending a 200-year cycle, and then the other thing is that it says in here too is that each sign has a 30 degrees to it, and so this is going to be right on top of each other. That means that they're both going to be at 0 degrees, like 20 seconds or something like that on that day. They are going to be so exact and so close to the Earth. The last time they were this close to the Earth was in 1623. I looked it up. 1623 was the first year that we had Thanksgiving, which I found interesting. But also Galileo it was shortly after Galileo had started looking into the skies of different things. So they're the closest that they've been to the Earth. So you'll be able to see these. If you have a telescope, get it out, because you'll be able to see these two planets, and it's going to be, they'll be right over the horizon, right after sunset. So it's going to be awesome. But Jupiter, on the other hand, is this it's a beneficial planet. It's complete opposite of Saturn. Saturn's restriction and loss. Jupiter is optimism, abundance, expansion. And so you get these two planets together, it's going, well, I want to expand over here and I want to have abundance. And then Saturn's going, no, you have to restrict yourself and you're not going to have all that. You're going to have more loss and you're not going to have any abundance. So you have these two planets getting together. So when he's saying this, one of them's representing the dark side and one's representing the light side. And so you have these two getting together, and it's interesting because, like I said, they get together every 20 years, but this is going to be in a different sign. So it's going to be in the sign of Aquarius. So how is this going to help shape us? What is this going to mean for all of us? It's really, really important because Aquarius is a technological advancement sign. And so, so it's really, really interesting because
here comes the technology.
Yes, here comes all the new technology. And this is not just with computers and everything. This has to do with finances also, because Uranus, it's natal planet that rules Aquarius. It's also in Taurus, which rules money. So we have two simultaneous things going on at the same time with two different planets happening at these three planets. They're all happening. It's happening, and it has to do with a lot of things with money. And I think this technological advances are going to have to do with crypto. We've been talking about crypto a lot.
Yep.
But anything that has to do with electricity. And so this is part of, I think that we'll get back to the election here in a second and how this is going to affect things with that. But I really, really do think that a lot of the Tesla stuff might be coming out. I've talked to a couple people about this, and just anything, people are going to start learning about all of this because Saturn is the workhorse and structure, and Jupiter is expansion. So you're going to be seeing people learning, and it also rules higher learning. Jupiter is higher learning. So people are going to be learning on how to restructure or how to put into place something that has to do with their work, regarding like technological advances. So there's going to be a lot of innovation that's happening. Aquarius is the sign of innovation. So there's going to be a ton of innovation. And I think there's going to be a lot of more jobs that are created from all of this. This is going to be a huge turning point in this. And this is going to kind of help set the stage for the next 20 years. And I
have said that I truly believe the market is being pushed up on purpose because the stock market at 30,000, yes, it's historically high, never been there before, but the president knows, he's not saying it, but it is completely artificially being propped up right now because it's a scam to start with. Wall Street's been scamming people forever. And so either he's propping it up because he knows they're going to attempt to crash it and he either has to reset it or something is going to happen there. The market is not going to continue to stay where it is because it's a fraudulent market. And then on top of that, next year, when he is put back in office, we are going to have
Yes.
a skyrocketing. People have no concept.
Yeah.
Take the best economy you've ever been in your lifetime and multiply it by 1,000,000 plus.
Well, absolutely. And this Jupiter is going to go through Aquarius in the next year. Jupiter moves through a sign every year, and Jupiter is going through Aquarius. So it's going to be transforming. It rules higher education and institutions, any quest for higher knowledge. It rules religions. It rules institutions, just institutions in general. So you're going to see this technological advancement happen in all these realms. Um, I specifically see a lot happening with higher education, with colleges, with religions. A lot of this, there's just going to be a lot infused in this, but and then Saturn will move through that in the next 2.5 years in Aquarius. So Saturn kind of comes behind Jupiter, but Jupiter will just keep moving on into other, next year after 2021, it'll go into Pisces. So it moves a sign every year. So Jupiter will just keep moving on. But Saturn will stays in a sign for 2.5 years. So it'll be in Aquarius for the next year. So you're going to see a restructuring and new jobs created in innovative technologies in the next 2.5, 3 years. And it's while he's still in office. And this is going to lead us into the whole next thing after 2024, because there's a whole nother, I'm looking at 2024 like I was doing in 2020, because 2024 is going to be a huge deal. There's so much, if people are into, astrology, if they're into feng shui in any way, or if they follow flying stars, they do anything like that. There's a lot that goes into 2024. Astrology is one part of it. And in 2024, so all these technological advances, all these new jobs, everything that people are learning about and they're going to start working on, and the new foundation. Saturn is about new foundations. And so new job opportunities. And so it's not all about loss. It's in an air sign. It's in an innovative sign. So it's in a good, positive sign, that it's going to be restructuring all this. So when all of this happens and goes into 2024, when Trump, maybe he goes out of office, maybe he doesn't. I don't know what, we don't know. But 2024 is going to be an interesting year too, because we have another solar eclipse, but this solar eclipse happens in the United States. It happens in the northern hemisphere, like the northern part of over Cleveland. We actually will see it over Cleveland, and it'll go through Cleveland. It'll go through north through south, and instead of east to west or west to east, how it went last time, it's going to be going north to south. So they're going to have a solar eclipse, which will help set off the year. The solar eclipse is happening. We have another election going on that year, which is going to be like time. I'm like, oh my
Which, by the way, 2020, this is the crazy part. And I thought about this last week, is everyone is hyper focused on this election, which for obvious reasons. But once he's in 4 years, because, okay, some people are saying, well, he's going to get a third term. Well, go, folks, according to the Constitution, you only get 2 terms. Now, if something changes, okay, but like stick to the rules and the laws of the land. 2 terms for a president, and that's supposed that is it unless something changes. But on top of that, when he's done, if he's done in 2024, you have to now follow that up with something. Like, what do you follow this up with?
There has to be somebody. I mean, the other big thing that year is Pluto is moving into Aquarius too. It's in another 4 years, Pluto will be changing signs, and Pluto will stay in Aquarius for 23 years. It's not going to move anywhere. So it's going to transform the landscape of what Aquarius represents, technology. So it's going to, I mean, totally revamp all this. So you have to have a leader in there. It rules governments. So governments are going to change dramatically, with technology with this. So I think with 2024, whoever gets in 2024, they know also Pluto's changing signs, and this is going to be a huge, because it's been in Capricorn since 2008. So it's like, oh, finally it's out of this heavy sign. It's like this dark doom and gloom, and there's going to be a huge relief in 2024. I mean, and there's going to be relief coming up here soon too, with these Jupiter and Saturn getting out of Capricorn. But again, in 2024, there's going to be a huge relief in some things. But yeah, this is all going to lead us up to that. And I think Trump is. That's why I'm still leaning to Trump, because not only am I looking at all the stuff with the astrology, but I'm looking at all the stuff that's coming out, and what he represents, and this revolution that he started back in 2017. I mean, this is not going where. Nothing can stop what's going to be happening. There's just nothing that's going to stop it. I mean, he already started this. He's going to finish it. He's not. If people think that he got into this and that he's just going to let some guy just come
I know.
in and ruin his plan, it's not happening.
The mainstream media is like, well, he might run again in 2024 if it doesn't pan out in the next month or so. If you think the guy who beat Hillary and then worked his ass off this much for 4 years and then did all those rallies is just gonna step to the side, you don't know who this is.
He's gone through hell, and he is a fighter, and they know that he was one of the only people that could do this, and and that's part of the reason why he hung out with Vince McMahon and did stuff with he studied all of these people. He knew what characteristics and personalities he was dealing with. He's known about this for a very long time. And going back to this last time Jupiter and Saturn were together in the year 2000, we just talked about this right before we went on. Project Veritas, or not Project Veritas, but Project Veritas, when he's exposing CNN, if anybody hasn't watched this clip, he's exposing Jeff Zucker. And Jeff Zucker, when he was on there, he's talking about the transition of powers to be, and how he's using this as being, he was kind of invoking 9/11 with this transition. And so with when this happened back in 2000, people have to understand that they had to get Bush in there when this occurred. You can always play the clip if you want to. I don't know where that was. It.
I'll let you can go ahead and just talk. Yeah. I'm gonna show it with the sound off so they can see where it is.
I want people to be able to see this clip because it's really interesting what he had to say about 9/11. Because he's trying to invoke 9/11, and so when I was looking at this, I'm going, well, wait a minute. Why the hell? What does 9/11 have to do with anything? Why is he saying 9/11 in here? So when we go back to the year 2000, when these two planets were together again before this election happened in 2000, they had to get Bush in there in order for 9/11 to occur. And Gore won the popular vote. Everybody's like, okay, Gore's in there, whatever else. And so, but it took 5 weeks for this to occur, for him to actually get in. They had to get Bush in there for that to occur, for 9/11 to occur. And I have a feeling the same thing they think, and they want Biden to be in here, because I think if he were to get in there, that they would have another false flag like 9/11, just like Bush did in the year 2000. And this is ending a 20-year cycle. This moon, and when Jupiter and Saturn got together in 2000, it created a whole 20-year cycle. And now it's coming back, and they're meeting again. And so it's the end of a 20-year cycle, not only a 200-year cycle, but a 20-year cycle. So this 20-year cycle, and what they put in place, and what Bush Sr. put in place way back when he got into office in 88, what he put in place was he made sure that he started the New World Order. And this is what you've seen over the last 20 years. They've had this plan. Trump's known about this plan.
Let me see if I can play this.
Yeah, see what he has to say.
An editorial conference call, how they, the Democratic Party, powerful interest groups, may determine how CNN will cover Trump not conceding the presidential election.
I just want to underscore something that Michael said earlier about the transition in Trump, because I've been talking to a lot of people this morning on both sides, and I just keep hearing the same thing, both from Republicans who have not come out to congratulate Biden, but also to those who have in the Democrats, and that is that we have to be, news organizations have to be very careful and very responsible about not giving Trump too much of a platform on his not conceding, because they feel the transition can go forward, and other than the national security briefings, which are critical to start now, they just don't want us to exaggerate that Trump isn't leaving office. And I'm going to have a lot of specific reporting on that later today, but just big picture wanted to underscore what Michael had said.
Yep, agreed.
On the issue of why it's important to get the transition going right, the 9/11 report talks about one of the problems was that the trouble that was brewing got lost during the transition. So if you want a good concrete example of what happens when you don't have a good transition, go look at the Twin Towers.
Yeah. So I think that's an important point. I think it was discussed a little bit yesterday in terms of national security. I think it's really important to raise again. I would encourage folks to think about, that 9/11 Commission report and the lack of transition.
Wow.
I mean, like, ridiculous.
Right. Wow. I mean, and they know about, I mean, they all know what's going on, and they have there's no qualms about that. They all have a plan. They have a plan in place, but they're running out of time. And we talked about this a couple weeks ago when I was texting you that, when this all happens on December 21st, I mean, it's ending a cycle. So it's like, you got to get your crap together. They better have these electors in place to elect Joe Biden as president. Well, that's not going to be happening. I really honestly do not feel that that's going to be happening because of the things that I've seen in what I'm looking at with astrology, but also all the other stuff that's going to be coming out in the next 2 weeks. Just get ready, because there's just so much stuff that's going to be happening. It has to come out. But, I was looking at Blaine's Twitter feed earlier today, and he said on there specifically, we have to do this right. We have to cross our T's and dot our I's. We only have one shot to get this right. If we don't get this right, then we're screwed. We have to do this legally. So this is so important for everyone to understand that if this is not done legally, they can come back to us and say, oh, you cheated us and this and that. Yeah, it's a little bit further down, but it was so important when I read this, because I'm like, this is so right. We have to know that we have to do this legally, and that we can't screw around. I think it's a little bit further back. It was a couple hours ago. Let's see.
He's so hardcore.
I love, because he's really out there, and he's putting himself, and he's talking about his family not really liking him very much, and it doesn't matter to him. He doesn't care. He wants to get the truth out, and it really matters to him. He didn't say it that far. I don't think he said it that long ago. Not 6 hours ago. It was only a couple hours ago, I thought. Let's see. Because everybody was freaking out about what Bill Barr said also tonight too. It's like, okay, calm down, people. Okay, this is all part of the plan. This isn't something, I know everybody's just tired of us hearing that, and like, when is this stuff going to happen? Okay, this is all unfolding in front of us. And so you have to understand, we have one chance to get this right. It's really, really important that we do it legally. And so all this stuff's going to continue to keep coming out. They're going to keep filing lawsuits about this, but it will eventually end. They're going to have somebody in office. They can't not have a president. You know what I mean?
Right.
They have to have somebody in there. Well, who are they going to have? I don't know where the heck it is. I'm looking too. I don't see it anywhere. But he specifically said that earlier. He says, we have
basically,
one.
It has to be. So, I mean, I could probably summarize, only because I think I've said this a few times to other people, because I constantly get the messages behind the scenes, or the comments in YouTube and stuff like that of, nothing's happening. Why aren't they just arresting him? Why aren't they taking him down? Why aren't they doing this?
Right.
These people are freaking attorneys with like hundreds of millions, of possibly billions of dollars. And on top of that, they have blackmail on other people that if something happens, they'll have them murdered. This is not a friendly game of like hopscotch. There's murder involved. So you can't just be like, well, we have a little bit of evidence, so we're going to go take them. No, you have to have concrete, basically showing pictures almost of them, evidence that they've done it. And then on top of that, it's interesting because Trump, being as smart as he is, everyone wants Trump to say things in the media and everything else about taking people down. He can't be caught up in collusion in the run for the presidency. Like he has to stay, like, this is why he's tweeted out things like, hey, this is a fraudulent election. But he has to stay away from Giuliani. He has to stay away from Jenna. He has to distance himself from Sidney Powell. That's why the Powell, that memo came out. Everyone is freaking out about why is Sidney Powell not part of the team? Why has she been booted? She wasn't booted. He has to keep a complete distance because, and on top of that, if he allows Biden to come in a transition move, now Trump. Trump is guilty of treason for allowing somebody who has no national security clearance to see security clearance. Like, so Trump has to be careful that he doesn't, implicate himself in this.
Right. Well, they're all part of the plan. This is so detailed. This lunar eclipse being in Gemini. Gemini is such a detailed sign, and so every single detail will be mapped out. There's nothing they're missing in any of this. So that's why this plan is so much larger. And so with this being in Gemini, it's forcing us, and the sun being in Sagittarius, it's forcing people to think bigger. This is not a small thing. Yes, there's major details in this, but with the sun being in Sagittarius, it's this large sign. So it's forcing you to think outside, and it rules foreign nations. Sagittarius does. So it's forcing you to look at how these people have interfered in our election, and you have to think bigger with this. This is not some small thing. It's extremely detailed. Every single piece of this has been thought out. And so over the next month, I'm just asking everyone to really, really think big on this. This is much bigger than anybody can imagine. And we're seeing these small little pieces come out, and we're like, okay, when is this thing going to end? Well, this whole big web will come down. It's just, there's piece after piece after piece. And I love them when Trump trolls them too. Like our master.
So there's been some great ones, but I don't know if I've ever seen a better one than Sunday night. I think it was.
Well,
when the Biden video coming out of the doctor's office with a slight limp, and you didn't see the boot yet, and he retweeted, "Get well soon."
So funny. I just laughed. When you sent that to me, I just lost. I couldn't believe it. I was like, that is the ultimate troll. I just love it. I don't know where Kim Jong-un is either. I'm wondering where he is, because remember when he would troll everybody too.
The interesting thing about this, and I thought about this morning, because as I continue digging, even as I do shows and stuff kind of comes flowing in, I used to have, I still have friends, but I used to have friends who were very, almost like the George Carlin mentality, which was, I don't vote anymore because it's not worth it, and it's a big club, and they just pick who they want to, etc. And I didn't disagree with that. Like, if you don't want to vote, I get it. I'm a little bit different on that now because of what's going on. But like, I totally agree with Carlin. It was a big club. We're all getting screwed. They get to pick who they want to. And so the atheists out there and the libertarians and the anarchists who are like, I'm not voting because it doesn't matter, they're selected. Like, they're right, technically. And what is happening, you and I and our spouses are all chiropractors.
Right.
We're all natural healthcare physicians. We don't give out medications because we know that it goes around the cause of the problem. And at the end of the day, you and I and our spouses and our colleagues out there, we always ask the same question. We go back to, what is the root cause? What is the source? Why is the body, why is whatever it is we're working on not working? Like, there's symptoms, yeah, but they don't really mean anything technically. We need the cause. And so as this whole plan is being rolled out, we didn't know it was going to be about an election and the fraud of the election. But as they open this up to the people, and then Project Veritas dumps this information and the media starts opening up about it, it made me realize what's going to happen is people are going to go, wait a second. Wait, but we really, like, we voted, but it didn't count. We voted, but like they cheated. They cheated. And then what happens is, once the masses start picking up on the fact that this was fraudulent and we got cheated out of an election. And then all of a sudden they start showing, oh, wait a second. No, wait, it wasn't just this year. They've been running this software for possibly decades, and fraud has been going on possibly centuries. And then they go, wait a second. Well, wait, but if we have been voting for decades, but it's been a lie, well then, wait, but then how are these people? And then ultimately you end back at the source. And the source is, the question is, and the masses are going to end up asking this. But wait a second. Who's at the top? Who's calling the show here? Who's picking these people? And that's the question you want, which is the top of the pyramid. And that tells you the elite of this planet are controlling the show. And this whole thing winds up to that.
Right. Well, and that's how the pyramid falls. I mean, you have to go all the way to the top with all of this. And people have to understand we're still in the information. We're still in the information stage. We're getting closer to the end of getting towards the justice part of all this. But there's so much information still coming out. And if people really, really pay attention and look back at his presidency and how much just over the last year he has exposed, there hasn't been one element of any institution that these people have infiltrated. What he's trying to show everyone is he's all about information. He's a Gemini. He wants to communicate this to people. He wants to show people the information he knows. But in order to show, you can't just tell him. He can communicate this to everybody. Nobody's going to listen to him. So he has to show you the information. So the way he's been doing this is, you saw these things. You saw the impeachment. You started seeing all these people from 2018, all these different politicians being exposed for, they didn't care about what the election happened in 2018. They wanted to expose all these people. They wanted people to see this. Then you have the pandemic that comes in, then they expose all the politicians in every single state, all the different governors, and all the different, and how they all are corrupt. Then you start seeing the institutions like the medical community and how they've been in on all of this with the vaccines, and then Bill Gates is exposed and how he's a depopulation agenda with him. I mean, you start looking at every single thing. Then he leads up to where we're like, oh, okay, well, what's he talking about with with watching the water and that. So the whole time he's working towards this whole election thing. So now not only is he exposing all this other stuff and politicians, I mean, every institution these people have infiltrated. That's what is so important about this, is the infiltration of these people. And he's trying to show you how many places these people are located in. They're located in the schools. He's also exposed like the colleges and how rampant this information is spread through our younger generation. He has exposed every financial institution and how rampant this is and how they're being paid off, all of the corrupt politicians in other countries. I mean, the magnitude of this, and then it comes down to the election. Then it's going to start talking about the election, how fraudulent elections have been. So all of this is leading up to something, and people have to understand these are all the pieces he's been putting in place this whole time. He has been here for a reason, to put this all in place, this whole plan in place. And if people don't understand how evil these people are and don't understand this plan that these people have, they better go watch The Fall of Cabal. If they don't watch that, they don't understand how in depth this stuff is and how far these people will go. They will stop at nothing to get what they want. And this has been going on for eons. This has been going for a long, long time. And so if you just think this has been going on for just, in the last 20 or 30 years, it's been going on for a long, long time with these evil people. And so even the last one that I think it's episode 4, It lays out their code of honor or their plan as to how this relates to today. And it is so in depth. And you see that they have gone through every single element of how we function in life. And they've infiltrated everything. And this has been going on this whole time. And so we've been living a lie. So if you can't expose all of this and show the people this, then you don't understand why this is all going on. So you can get caught up in all the little details, but the details are there for a reason because they're part of the bigger plan. So you have to understand what where the other side's coming from too. And Janet lays it out so beautifully. I am just so excited for the next episode because it's like I could binge watch that thing for hours, but you have to watch this last one if you haven't seen it. It's so important to what's happening right now and what these people, what their plan is and the global reset and why these people have come into power and what they've been wanting to do for so long. This is their final piece. They haven't reached it yet and they won't reach it. And so they've had this plan for, some odd years, 20 years, however long Trump has been working. I think he's been working on it most of his life. And they chose him and they knew that he could come into power with this and to help with the Great Awakening instead of the global reset, where we're in the phase of a global awakening. So
did you ever think the attorney, not directly attorney, but he's consulting, Lynn Wood, did you ever think a presidential attorney would drop that tweet? Yes. Learn about George Soros reset and New World Order and learn about Bill Gates' depopulation goal?
I mean, that was shocking to me when we were texting back and forth the other day when this came out. I mean, I was in shock because not only has he exposed all of the corrupt politicians, he's exposed all the corrupt judges. He's exposed every single element of this. So the judges are in on this too. All the people that have put these people in place and have allowed this stuff to go on. So Lynn Wood is exposing all of this too, and Bill Gates is part of this global reset. So he's exposing him at the same time. So it's just it is so mind-boggling. He knew about all this stuff, and it's mind-boggling that it has gone on this long in their plan with everything, and to see this, it really opened my eyes after watching this and how Janet laid this out. I was completely in awe at how beautiful of a job she does with this.
Part four will
blow you out of the water. I mean,
you have to. I mean, you do not go into part 4 without checking yourself and making sure you're ready to hear some very, very brutal stuff, because it's not an easy one to watch. Because when you find out, if you're not open to this or awake to this, and even me, I'm like, okay, let me sit through this and let me deal with this. Even knowing most of it, but not knowing necessarily all of it. It'll rock your world with what they were planning and what they were getting ready to do. And see, part 5 just came out 2 days ago.
Okay, we'll have to watch that too. But you tapped on it. It was a little piece in there. It said, we will infiltrate every section of humanity, like every single section. They have all these people everywhere. And so what Trump has done is that he's done like a reverse engineering with this. So it's so awesome to watch him, because he's infiltrated them and he's played the same exact part of what they've done. He knows their playbook. And Q has been talking about this for a very long time. He's been talking about, we know we have everything. We know their playbook. We know what they're up to. And that's why this part 4 is so important, because if you know their playbook, you can combat that. You can go, you can have ways to get us out of this. So yeah, hopefully the taxes go away. I saw the taxes.
You and me both.
Oh, geez. Yes. I mean, I don't know if the IRS is going to be upping, but yeah, I mean, over the next technology, anything that has to do with electricity and technology is going to be highlighted in the next, year, 2, 3 years. It's really going to be an important time in humanity. So I don't know. And Sagittarius and Aquarius also, when these two planets get together on December 21st, it's happening on the winter solstice, which is another important part. And so with Aquarius, it's based upon humanitarianism and philanthropic, and your collective viewpoint on the world. So I think people are going to be getting together more in their outer communities and forming more larger groups and helping each other out. That's kind of the age of Aquarius that we're going into. So I have hope for humanity. I really do. And Q's always been talking about that have hope in humanity, because we do have a lot of really, really good people, and you're seeing this awakening happening all over the world. And it's going to continue to keep getting exposed. But don't get so discouraged when these little things happen, when CNN reports or Bill Barr comes out and says, oh, well, this, and this is all part of the plan. It's all there. We're watching a movie. So we have to really understand that. And
yeah, it's important. It's important to watch what's going on every day so you know what's happening, but it's important not to get caught up in the emotion of it. And we all fall prey to it. I mean, I'm not saying that I've never been caught up in it as well. Like we are, but like you can't, like the Bill Barr stuff came out today, and literally I was completely unfazed by it. And everyone else is like, oh my God, he's got to go, blah, 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 blah. Where is he? Where are they? And I'm like, you guys don't think that they don't know what, like, like, I don't know what's going on, but you think this wasn't planned for? Like that, like, come on, like, stop. Don't go up and down on the roller coaster.
Yeah. Well, a lot of the information in the next month is going to be positive. I think we're going to be shocked by a lot of stuff, but Mercury just went into Sagittarius today. And again, Sagittarius is a sign of optimism, and Mercury is all about information. So we're really going to be focusing on getting to the bottom of things and really focusing on what's positive and the good information that's coming. A lot of this information, it might seem a little shocking, but it's on the positive side. We have to know about this in order to move forward, in order to get it, to move it, put it in our past and move forward with where we're going. Because if we don't know where we've been in the past, then we're going to continue to keep repeating it. So, and that's why I study astrology, because there's a lot of repetition. There's a lot of patterns in there. We can kind of see what's happened in the past. It doesn't always mean that it's going to be the same thing, but we have a lot to look forward to. So I continue to just keep telling people, hey, over the next year, just in the next 4 or 5 months, just keep, I'll be back on again, but it's just hold on tight, because there's a lot that's going to be happening. It's going to be a very, very interesting time.
Here you go. Ready for this one? Here's a tweet 6 minutes ago. Now, it's not necessarily a dignitary, but the gravity of this possibility. Hey, has everyone noticed how Trump is now methodically exposing the U.S. Postal Service and their potential role in treason?
Right.
Could you imagine? So, could you imagine if he exposes the post office and the postmaster general as Now, this is the other thing that could happen. And actually a friend of mine tweeted this out, and he ended up deleting his tweet, not because it was wrong, but because he just didn't want to. He was getting tons of backlash from really angry liberals. And the tweet was essentially, and a friend of mine, I'll say this, another friend, I'll use that. I'll protect the person. I mentioned this the other day, saying that if for example, as this fraud comes out, there's been an executive order put in place saying that not only are you essentially in treason if you're involved in foreign interference in an election, which you would be because you're foreign interference in an election, like this is pretty obvious, but there was also executive orders that basically say that the president and the administration could seize and possibly liquidate the assets of anyone or organization or entity involved in said interference. So if you take Google, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, all the big tech companies, you take the mainstream media, the CNNs, the ABCs, the CBSs, Fox News, you take media, big chat. What's that?
Celebrities.
Celebrities, Hollywood.
Well,
so you have the media, then you have all of Congress,
right?
Because they're gonna rubber stamp it, and then you take anybody else who's involved, but then maybe you take the post office, which there's billions of dollars there. If you liquidate, what he tweeted out was, it's gonna look like he's being a dictator,
right?
But in reality, this is the problem. You and I and everyone watching this has never lived in an actual real republic.
No, we haven't. No.
And in a real republic, the people govern. The treasury prints the money. It comes from one source. It doesn't come from a central bank. And yes, it might look very very dictatorish in the very beginning, but in reality, it's it's us taking back what was stolen from us.
Yes, and it's all going to come, and it might all come at once, but that's part of this exposure, is to show everyone how corrupt and how much we've been infiltrated. This has been a plan for a very, very, very long time. But again, when you watch Fall of Cabal, you'll understand the magnitude of this. It goes into every single piece of our living every single day. And so, like, even in chiropractic, we've seen the medical model has infiltrated chiropractic. We've seen this on every front of this new world order, whatever you want to say, the deep state, infiltrating every portion of our lives. So even with veterinarians, I mean, Jesus, with all the animals and all the vaccines they're getting, I mean, you've seen it in everything that affects our lives. So it's the exposure is crucial. So we're still in the information age. We still have to get through this, but this Mercury is going to be going through Sagittarius. We're going to continue to keep focusing on getting to the bottom of stuff. That's what Giuliani is going to be doing. He is a Gemini. Mercury rules Gemini. So he's going to continue to expand this and show the people and give more information with all this over the next month. This is going to, well, I'd say probably in the next 28 days, it's going to be in there. So we'll have optimism, and then Venus will be going in there too pretty soon. So there's going to be a lot on the front of money coming up too. Venus, I haven't looked to see when Venus is moving in there, but Sagittarius is a good sign. And then all of a sudden, in about a couple of weeks, on December 21st, the sun will move into Capricorn, and then we'll kind of feel this little bit of a heaviness, and then it'll move out of there in January 21st. So there's still a little bit of transition here that we're still going to be feeling some heaviness, especially in January. The inauguration is kind of a heavy day, and hopefully I'll be back on before then. I'll kind of explain a little bit more about the inauguration and what might be happening. We'll kind of see what all kind of unfolds in the meantime, but we're in for a lot. So hold on tight for all the stuff that's going to be happening, but just don't get too bogged down on the details. You can get bogged down on the details, but remember that we're getting down to the bottom of this and we're exposing all of this. That's the information.
Wait until Washington Monument falls.
I know. Yay. I'm so excited. That's awesome.
Yeah, like it's going to be, the next month and a half is fireworks. I don't see how it's not.
Next week, I mean, just wait till the electors get picked. I mean, they have to know. And again, I still think it's going to come down to somebody in law. It might not even necessarily be by the Supreme Court. Supreme Court's going to have something to do with it. After watching Praying Medic tonight, I understand what he's talking about with the Supreme Court and litigation that's against any of these states. And so once they have determined these electors, then they can go on and they'll determine who's going to be in our president. But that might be a little bit off. So, yeah, I mean, there's going to be some interesting things that go on in the next 2 weeks. So just hold on tight. It's going to be fun next week. That's next Tuesday when they decide and they start picking their electors. And again, they don't have to be the popular vote. So yeah.
But by the way, hey, just so you know, record in American history, Joe Biden, 81 million.
Oh, that's right.
81 million votes. I want to say job well done, Mr. Biden, for surpassing by 16 million votes.
That's right.
16 million votes, the first ever two-term black president and the first possible female president. And Joe Biden, with almost no effort and no rallies, 81 million votes. That. Can we get the secret to that success? Where you do no work and you win by record margins?
Oh, jeez. I'm still laughing about that tweet the other day when it talked about Kamala and Biden when he got that boot put on. It said "Puss in Boots."
Well, Dr. St. John, thank you for coming on.
Well, this is so much fun. We love it. So
You're a blast. Everyone loves you. Where can everyone find you, by the way? Because I know you're being inundated with requests in a good way.
I'm on. Well, a lot of people have friended me on Facebook, so hopefully people saw that I'm less and less on Facebook.
Facebook, is that a social media site? I don't know about that. That one.
You're not on there anymore. Sorry, you've been booted. And so yeah, I mean, I go on there maybe once or twice a day, just to kind of see what's happening. But I have a lot of friends and family on there, and so I haven't really been putting a lot on there. I'm more on Twitter. I'm on Twitter more. You and I are on Twitter more than any other site.
I'm on Twitter the most. Yep.
Almost all the time. When I have my free time, I'll just scroll through really quickly and see what's coming up because there's so much information being dropped. But on Twitter, I retweet stuff all the time, and I'm getting stuff, every as soon as I get it, I'll send it over to you, or I'll just look, I'll retweet it. I mean, we're tweeting stuff back and we're texting stuff back and forth all the time. So, so I'm mainly on Twitter. If people want to find me, they can find me on Twitter. It's at Chagrin Natural. It's at Chagrin Health. So CHAGRIN Health. At Chagrin Health. That's it was founded on my principal of my office, but at Chagrin Health, if you want to follow me there, I'm mainly on Twitter. So, but if you can always get a hold of me on Facebook.
Oh, nice. I like it.
Yeah. you can always get, hey, General Flynn follows me. Did you see that?
Yeah, that's ridiculous. General Flynn follows you before he follows me.
Well, I only had like 200 followers on there. I don't have that many followers, but I had like 200, and all of a sudden he followed me. I'm like, this isn't the same dude. This is not the same guy. This cannot be the same guy. And then I looked, and I think it has to do with because I have Chagrin Health on there, but it's all right, no big deal. But I just said, forget it. I'm just going to keep tweeting. So I tweet stuff all day long.
I don't follow you. I better follow you.
Oh, come on, Jason. What is up with you? What do you mean?
I didn't even know that. I didn't even realize. You know why? Because I was always looking for Tina St. John.
Oh, I see. Yeah, I had it under. When I started tweeting all the time, I started having it on there. So yeah, I'm on there all the time tweeting. So yes, definitely go and find me there because I'm not really going to be sharing too much on Facebook. I've been kind of moving off of that a little bit more, but if people want to message me and they want to get a hold of me, they can do it through Messenger, or they can email me. My email is docstjohn2@gmail.com. So DOCSTJOHN2@gmail.com. Or you can just message me. But I had a lot of people try and contact me last time I was on, and it's taken me probably the last month to get caught up on everybody. I'm still like booked out till the 15th or 16th of this month. So if somebody wants to get a reading or if they want to get a hold of me, just give me a little patience and just know that I will try to get back to you as soon as possible. But I don't have any help. So I'm doing this all myself, along with being in my office, my kids and everything else, and the holidays going on. So yes, just please, you can get a hold of me that way. And if you need to, you can always comment on this. I've been trying to look at some of the comments. I always looked on the Facebook comments, and that's how I found a lot of people. But yeah, you can always get a hold of me that way. That would be fine too.
I'm making a nice little scrolling banner for you right now that we can actually. Oh, there we go. Oh! I brought it up on the thing. There you go. It's up on the. It's not a ticker. It's an actual label.
Right. Like says it. That's cool. I didn't know you could do that. That's awesome.
Yeah, there's lots of stuff we can do.
Yes, you're finding new technology all the time. But no, it's been such a pleasure, and I really enjoy all the people I've met. Everybody's become my friend. I just love it because I'm getting to know these people intimately when I do readings with people or do their charts. They already know. They know a lot about themselves. I don't know anything about them. I just kind of go in cold and totally blind as to who they are. But it's a lot of fun getting to know everyone. So
Nice.
if you want to get a hold of me and want to be friends with me, then I'm more than happy. More friends, the merrier. So I'm happy with that.
You have gained over 100 followers on Twitter in the last 2 minutes.
Oh, yay. All right, cool. Continue to keep tweeting stuff all the time. And then I'll probably post a lot more astrology stuff on that compared to Facebook. I have a lot of family that are on there that don't always, like a lot of the stuff I say. So I kind of try and stay away from the land because it's too charged. There's too much. And then I stopped posting stuff about the election and and the pandemic and all the other crap, because everybody just gave you so much stuff about it. I'm like, I'm done with you people. So let's just go on Twitter. Most of the people I follow on Twitter, Jason also follows, and we get most of our information from there. That's, I mean, yes, we're on Parler, we're on all these other, I just don't ever go on any of them. We're so used to Twitter, and yes.
Parler's okay, but Parler, like, it needs a lot of work. Like I've been playing with it, and it has great potential, but it needs a lot of work. And I'm gonna be honest with anybody out there, like, I've been on social media for a long time, and if you don't have the ability to at least like videos up fast, but then Parler's gonna have to do live streaming very quickly, or I think they're gonna have problems, because Twitter has Periscope and we're on there. Facebook's live streaming. Like, they're gonna need to up it really quickly, and I don't know how that works. I mean, I know that I'm a little worried about Bongino, because I mean he doesn't look good, but he's one of the majority stakeholders. But Parler has the ability to be great, but if they don't keep up fast, they will not. I'm going to tell you, they won't last, no matter if they're conservative or not.
No, I don't think so either. I mean, I'm at Doc St. John on that, but I haven't I haven't gone on there, and I don't know. I just haven't. You know, I've stuck with Twitter just because, and I know I want to try and get away from a lot of these big stream things, and eventually, when you have your own place, we'll all be going to yours.
We'll all be on the new network very soon.
TV, so that's exciting, or whatever you're creating.
I'm going to convince Dr. St. John to have her own show.
Oh, right. That'll eventually come. I just kind of have to keep up. This is a whole new.
Don't keep up. Just commit now and figure it out later.
This is a whole new avenue for me as far as doing readings and getting to meet all these people, because I'm literally talking to these people for about an hour and a half, 2 hours. We get to talking about all kinds of, we talk a lot about you in good terms.
Yeah, you have to do it the way I do it, which is my wife says, "What did you do?" And I'll go, "I did this." And she goes, "How are you going to maintain that?" I go, "I don't know. I'll figure it out."
Well, that's exactly right. So yes, it helps, but yes, I will eventually, hopefully Twitter. I mean, I can always go on Twitter. I have never really done it. You can always show me. It's pretty easy, I'm sure, but I've never really done lives or anything like that. But I was thinking about doing a Facebook page, or group and everything when this started, and it just never happened, because then you got kicked off, and I was like, okay, I'm done.
I'm done.
I'm not really on this so much, but I mean, I like seeing all friends and family and pictures and everything else, but I'm really all about information, and I'm really trying to get as much. And by the time people find out on Facebook what's happening, I've already known about it on Twitter for 20 minutes. I mean, it's like breaking news everywhere. I mean, really, I found something out about our governor. He was trying to be impeached, and I found that out 20 minutes before the other people did on Facebook. I'm like, isn't anybody else going to report this? I'm like, am I the only person that knows this right now?
Getting booted off Facebook was probably one of the better things that's happened to me in the tech world, not because of followers and fans, but because, one, I will tell you, everyone thinks Twitter is the worst one out there. They're not. Facebook is by far the worst offender of all speech.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there is far deeper stuff on Twitter than ever I put on Facebook, and it has freed up my time. And again, I do love seeing family and friends on Facebook every once in a while, but honestly, I have more fun creating and producing content to put out to everybody else than I ever had scrolling a timeline and seeing a picture here. And honestly, all the friends that I have that are really close, they have me on messengers behind the scenes. Like, they can get a hold of me anytime they want. But Facebook is horrendous, and I am not upset that you'll see ads on there maybe in the future with Brave TV, but you won't see me back up there personally. I don't need it. I'd rather do this stuff.
Well, and I think a lot of those things are going to be changing anyways. I mean, they just have to, because if Trump has anything to do with it, and the Section 230 gets yanked, you're going to see a lot of these people changing. So this technology is going to be changing with all the stuff happening in the next couple months anyway. So yeah, as far as forming a group, but I do in hopes in the future starting something, where I can help educate people a little bit about astrology, just basic stuff, so they can kind of follow this and understand it themselves, because it's not really that hard to understand. You just have to have someone just kind of teach you the basics of it, and you can put stuff together. And if you're wrong, oh well, it's not like it's the end of the world. I'm not the psychic that's predicting all these things. I'm just saying, hey, these are some things to watch out for. These are guides. These are things that have happened in the past. And so this is what these planets represent, and this is what you can maybe see. And so, yeah, and people, like I said, the people that I've done their charts for, they've been able to see that in action and see how I can put these things together. And I try and explain that to them as I'm going through it, so they're not just totally like in the dark and talking to them about all these crazy things they don't know about. So yeah, so it's exciting. So thanks so much for having me on. I can't believe we've been going for well, we can talk for 2 hours all the time.
Oh, wait, please. We could talk for hours upon hours. We have to shut it down just to get to bed.
Right. John's like, are you coming to bed? Morning. No, we have Wednesday mornings off. We don't start till noon. So,
I start early Wednesday morning.
Yeah, that's right. So, and plus we still have all the snow. So hopefully it stopped. I don't know what happened, but it's fine. No big deal. So yeah, we're going to work out in the morning and enjoy ourselves and then start work. So we have time. So I hope everybody enjoyed the show, and I appreciate you having me back on, because it's always fun. We just have
always. You are welcome anytime. Just text me or whatever. Anytime you want to come on, I will push a show aside to bring it on.
Well, it's like Jason Q, it's like, hey, it's your show. It's not the Jason Q show. I don't want it to.
I know. Somebody commented the other night saying, where is Jason Q? This isn't Jason Q. And somebody, I didn't have to say it, somebody else is like, this isn't Jason. You've only been here like once, because this isn't Jason Q's show.
No, sorry. Yeah, that's kind of crazy stuff.
Well, thank you for being on. Everyone, send this out here. The other reason I want this sent out, obviously, because Dr. St. John is amazing. She has great information, but also, I appreciate everybody. And I even follow like the, Utsava, like she's a psychic or whatever. Like, I follow her too. I think she's interesting. Do I think she's right and everything? I don't know. But what I love is Dr. St. John knows how this stuff works from an objective scientific standpoint. So some people like the woo-woo, and I can get into that too. I think it's fun, but I also like to hear real-world knowledge, scientific, objective data, like what is actually occurring, and then what can we take from that? And that's what I love that she does, is Dr. St. John actually breaks that down so it's easy to understand from an actual just pragmatic standpoint.
Right. Well, these things, like I said, these things all have meaning to them, and they have different aspects to them. But it is, if I could learn it, other people can learn it. And people have asked me, where do you learn all this information? Well, I've learned from local astrologers, but I've Googled a lot of stuff. I mean, I just look on the internet. Hey, when was this? What does this mean? If is Mercury's in Virgo, what does that mean? I don't know. Sometimes it has a different. Some people have different spins on them, but I read a lot of stuff that's a lot of foo-foo stuff and woo-woo stuff that I don't really like. And it's hard for me to understand. So I can understand why other people are like, well, I don't really get what the hell these people are talking about. So yeah, I try to bring it down to a lower level, so people lower mind, so people can actually think with this information and apply it to their lives, because it's not always, just look up stuff. You can look and see what's going on this month astrology wise, and if you don't understand what it means, then go look it up. Just say, hey, what's like I said, what does Jupiter and Capricorn mean? What does that mean? What can that aspect mean in your life? So yeah, so it's kind of fun. I enjoy it, and it is complicated sometimes, but yeah, we're all complicated. Some people are more complicated than other people. So, but it's fun. So I enjoy it. So
absolutely. This is Dr. Jason Dean, Dr. Tina St. John, Revolution Network. You all have a wonderful evening, and go check her out. Twitter, all the other places. She is fantastic. She's a good friend, but she's super smart.
Oh, thank you. So are you. You know that. All right.
Guys, have a wonderful evening. As always, go out and serve and help somebody, and take good care of humanity, and hang in there.
Yes.
It's gonna be a roller coaster, but we win.
Yes, for sure. Bye.
Have a good night.